Well, hi everyone, Sean Humphries here. Welcome to All Things Retirement. In this installment, we're going to talk about a really important aspect of retirement income planning, but more specifically, investment planning. Successful investing is a marriage of the head and the heart. So I'm going to unpack that in a lot more detail for you in a moment. Now, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. We're posting content all the time, whether you're 5 years out from retirement, just about to retire, or already retired. We've got great content dealing with financial issues on those topics or areas. Now, we also have non-financial topics that intersect with retirement. We talk about health, longevity, relationships. So if you don't want to miss any of the great content we're posting, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Now, what do I mean by successful investing is the marriage of the heart and the head. We really need to harness both to be successful in our planning, both in retirement and more specifically in our investment planning. What does the heart do? Well, the heart inspires. The heart gets us to take action. The heart helps us to have the motivation to do the hard lifting to achieve our goals and objectives. So when it comes to retirement, you tap into your heart when you think about your aspirational goals, recreation, new experiences, the kind of lifestyle that you want to have when you retire. Those are really important things to visualize, to think about, because ultimately those goals will define how you will structure your plan. And those goals that have emotion attached to them will also help you to keep engaged in your planning. So it's a really important part of overall planning, harnessing your heart, your goals, your aspirations, your dreams. Now, at the same time you're harnessing your heart for that, sometimes your heart and your psychology and your emotions can move in the wrong direction for you. And that's particularly the case when we go through market calamity, economic calamity, personal calamity, where there's changes that are not great. And what happens is if the emotional responses get too dramatic, it can increase the probability that we're going to make poor financial decisions. So I'm not going to talk about the physiology around cognition and stress, but there's definitely a very close link between poor cognitive function and our ability to make great decisions financially. So we want to make sure we keep that emotional piece at bay when we're going through negative experiences as much as possible. And we want to make sure we harness emotions and our heart to visualize and think about what we want retirement to look like. And that's really critical when it comes to our portfolios. So I'm going to talk about a few strategies that you want to keep in mind when you put together a retirement portfolio that's there in place to help you achieve your goals and objectives. Retirement success and investment success is fundamentally attached to how we're dealing with our emotions, how we're dealing with our psychology and our heart. And if we don't deal with that effectively, it really compromises our ability to do well with the investment aspect of our planning, and will often create a situation where we're taking low probability decisions to succeed with our portfolios. So let's take a look at some of the key factors. So when you look at your portfolio and you want to try to increase the laws of probability no matter what's going on around you, the first thing you need to do is clear on our goals. So you may have done this before, and that's great, but if you haven't reviewed it for a while, I would encourage you to go back to your goals and your aspirations and get really clear on those things. Update them, write them down. What are you trying to achieve? Now, specifically as it relates to retirement income planning, you've got your aspirational goals, your dreams, your hopes. Those have a cost. How much after-tax income do we need to generate? What's our assumption around longevity? What are our assumptions around inflation? And those assumptions will tie into our overall plan. So first of all, what are your goals? What are your hopes for the future? The next step you want to take a look at is developing a solid plan. Your plan's going to bring together your tax planning, investment planning, cash flow planning, estate planning, security selection, all the different aspects of your financial planning get brought together to increase the probability that you will achieve your goals. Studies have confirmed that those people that have a plan have a higher probability of success and have a higher probability of acting with discipline when it comes to their overall planning. Okay, so the first one is have clarity in your goals and then develop a plan. Now the next part is the plan defines your return. So how does that work? I know when I work with my own clients, we do a lot of forecasting. We're looking to the future. We model the impact of inflation. We model the impact of their spending amounts and drawdowns on their portfolio. And we try to find a sweet spot that makes sense for them. Now that forecasting will help to define the return that they need to achieve to make sure those goals are accomplished. And that's a bit of a mix, right? You have your planning objectives, you have the return objective, but also we have to take into account your risk profile. How much financial risk do you want to take on? And that's going to have an impact on the design of the portfolio. Okay, so the plan defines a return. You're not looking at investment returns in a vacuum, right? I don't care what the S&P, well, I care what the S&P 500 does, but I don't care what it does relative to your planning. The most important thing is, can we design a portfolio that has the highest probability of getting the return you need for the lowest level of risk? That's our starting point. Most people psychologically, particularly as they get close to retirement, want to de-risk. They want to reduce the risk on their portfolios, but also achieve their goals, and they want their portfolios to work hard for them, obviously. Okay, so the next piece is your portfolio design is driven by your plan. So your plan design, defines the return, and then that return defines the mix of cash and bonds and stocks, real estate that might be as part of your portfolio strategy. Okay, so you don't start talking about individual securities until you've gone through the planning exercise, and then you can effectively place the different investments into your portfolio to have that high probability of achieving the goal return. The next part to bring peace of mind is to make sure you're reviewing and revising that plan and your portfolio on a regular basis. So it's not a set it and forget it exercise. You need to take into account changes to your personal circumstances, changing economic times, changes to your appetite for financial risk. All those things will change over time, and you want to make sure that you're updating your portfolio design accordingly. The next part is make sure you embrace cross-correlation, and all that means is you want to make sure that if one investment's going down temporarily, you've got another investment going up to smooth out the pattern of return through your retirement years. That's basically called diversification. And there's no doubt that diversification can cap the upside in your portfolio, but it also helps to cap the downside in your portfolio. So we're not trying to hit the lights out in terms of portfolio return with this strategy. We're trying to, again, get the goal return to fund your plan for the lowest possible level of risk. And one of the things we do is embrace cross-correlation. Not every investment is going to go up every year. One investment is going to do really well, another one might be more sluggish. The one that's doing well may go through an economic cycle where it's doing poorly, and your other investments pushing up the return overall or supporting the portfolio. So embrace cross-correlation. The one aspect of cross-correlation is what gets people in trouble is they become way too concentrated on their portfolios. They think they have an appetite to take on more financial risk. And they end up doing that, and then markets go through a downturn and they find they don't have the emotional appetite or ability to get through it, right? So for most people, not everyone, but for most people, diversification and embracing risk management strategies is really, really important. The next one is make sure that you educate yourself. And so financial education has been proven to help people make better decisions over time. It helps to be a way of creating a buffer between your emotions and your heart and how you're feeling and what you should be doing in that moment. The more education you have on that topic, probably the higher probability is you're going to make a good decision, based on logic, right? Now, I don't expect my own clients to be experts in the field of investing, but I do have an expectation that they will come to understand certain basic principles, and once they understand them and internalize them, they'll make better decisions over time. Now, the next part is having a coach. Now, I'm biased in this, but a coach really plays a critical role during times of uncertainty, economic calamity, market fluctuations, to help people make good decisions. What does the coach do? They assess your current situation, get to understand your goals, see if there's a gap between your current planning and what your objectives are, fill the gap with strategy, provide accountability and encouragement, review and revise on an ongoing basis, and you keep that loop going. Anyone that's had a coaching relationship in different aspects of their life, could be sports or diet, nutrition, health, wellness, knows the power of coaching, accountability, and encouragement. So we do find the data is very strong that people that have a coaching relationship financially have a better emotional feeling about their situation, right? They have more confidence, and they do better financially. So it's important to keep that one in mind. The next one is play the laws of probability. And the only thing I'll comment on today is there are certain strategies that increase the laws of probability. We've got lots of videos that talk about that, and I will include some links to videos on the notes part of this video that you can take a look at. There are high probability decisions you need to be focused in on. You don't want to be using the low probability decisions that seem like a good idea in the moment because your emotions taken over. So it's really important you do that. Managing stress, that's the next one. So we can't divorce our personal lives from our success around planning and how we manage our portfolios. So if we're going through stress, or maybe we've had health issues, even as we get older, our ability to deal with stress in our lives becomes less and less. And we have to be really, really intentional around fortifying our physical bodies, our mental health, so that we can make good quality decisions around portfolio design and how we handle surprises in our life. So you can't divorce, how you eat, the quality of your sleep, supplementation if necessary, quality of your relationships, from how successful you are financially and how you're doing with your portfolio. Those things are intimately connected. So how's your stress level? Are you managing it well? Do you need to put in place strategies to reduce that stress? And then the last point that I'll make for this presentation is invest in all forms of capital. And so when you're investing in your portfolio, that's critical, but there's relational capital, there's health capital, there's community capital, there's family capital. There's different things that we can invest in to create broader emotional, physical, and overall resilience in our lives. So the one thing I would encourage you to do is, how are your investments doing, not just with your investment portfolio, but with your relationships? How are your investments doing with your health? How are your investments doing with your volunteer service and your community? Those are just some examples. And to the extent that we lean into each of those areas and invest in them, they pay dividends that help us to make better decisions, where we begin to make sure that we are really blending, we're melding, we're connecting our head and our heart to make sure that we're making great financial decisions. Well, I hope you enjoyed this content. Now again, like I said, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button to get the content that we're posting on a regular basis. As well, you'll see another link to a video that we've posted at the end of this presentation that is related to this particular topic, so make sure that you click that. And of course, if you want to visit our website at humphreywealthgroup.com, there's a lot of great resources and blog posts that we put up on a regular basis, so make sure you check those things out.